everyone. Welcome to Ask a Hypnotherapist. I am Jasmine Caldron Marquez with Hypnosis with Jasmine, and this is my comadre, Tanya Creasser.
Hello, and I am Tanya with Shine Spirituality.
Welcome. So today's episode, our question of the day is, what is your favorite type of hypnosis to perform? And this question is directed at Tanya today.
So for me, I've been more in line with spiritual healing and energy healing, and I like doing more of just a releasing approach. I like stress, and I like anxiety, and I like fear, and I like tensions, and I like just people who are ready to just pop. And I love doing hypnosis on them because when you get them in that deep hypnotic state, when they're in a nice, good trance and the tears are just streaming because they're letting out all of that tension. And I just love watching the relief come over people. So I like the nitty gritty and the dirty. I like the down under thunder that rolls in our head from when we wake up until we pass out at night because we're all traumatized.
We're all traumatized. We all do trauma bonding with each other.
I mean, look, it's one of those things that, of course, I don't joke about people's traumas, and I am a very safe space person, and I love helping people out of that darkness. And part of that is bringing joy. Part of that bringing light is just really bringing light. And once you escape those really dark places, once you realize where those fears came on, once you shine a light on the boogeyman and you see he's just not so scary, he just wanted a hug. It's the inner child healing. It's that soul work I really, really love doing. For me, it's you know, even though we're supposed to leave our ego out of it, you know, I really love seeing the progression that somebody gets from presenting totally afraid and just not knowing where to start, completely lost in their situation. And, they don't even know what's wrong with them
Mhm.
until they start talking about it. But to me, there's nothing really comforting for me is when the first time I met my wise and loving. And I like taking people to that place because they know that at the end of the day, they still have that love from themselves. And even though they can't see it right now, even though they can't understand it, even though they don't know what's going on, and they haven't really gotten in touch with themselves because of all the stress and the anxiety, the fear. And when your head is focused on all of that, your body is just completely tensed up and your emotions are just all over the place and you don't know what to feel. But once you get into that hypnosis, once you go down that hallway, once you see that higher self, and you just immediately feel that love wash over you because it's you at the end of the day who saves you. And that's why I work with a lot of people who are just, they've been through shit. They haven't been appreciated their whole life. They haven't taken advantage of. They haven't people pleasers. They, have reached a new depth of self low,
Mm.
and that's where I'm like, let's go. Let's get into it. It's almost like just watching, someone come up out of like the mud and the gunk and just find their own light and find that aha moment of relief. Like, what, there's gonna be a rough journey to this, but it's good. You know, it's a scary start, but for me, I think that was my favorite thing to do when I first did that. And I had somebody say, I didn't know I could feel like that. I didn't realize that it was really just all the pain that I've been in my whole life.
You get
that
so
keeps me
used
from,
to it that you think it's part of you and it's not.
yeah.
It becomes your reality and you think everyone else is going through it too. You're like, "Oh no, that's just normal."
Yeah. That was another one too, when I mean, it's difficult sometimes, and I know that while we were in school, they did warn us, you're gonna have people that are, once the Pandora's box is open and it's all out there, and people are gonna be in pain, people are gonna be frustrated, people are gonna be sad, and people aren't even going to know that that's what they've been holding on to. And that's why I love trauma healing, and I love that because for me it's just it's it's not what everybody else advertises, for just well, let's do hypnosis for, let me exercise, and hypnosis for all the other things that hypnosis is amazing for. There's so much of it out there, but that to me has been my calling. That's what I love about it, is just people finding themselves. It's like searching a house, and when you're in that state and you just open up one of the doors in your subconscious mind, and there you are, in a corner, cold, tired, hungry for love. And then it's just like, I'm here, and you meet you and you guide you out of it. So that's what I really like.
It
How
creates
is
Oh, go ahead, Tanya.
I was gonna say, how is it that, you know, these things, these modalities that we have needed for so long, like there's, you know, they're selling Spanx like hotcakes, and there's makeup, and there's, which, don't get me wrong, I love beauty. I'm all about
Mhm.
that. But I think that it is so important now. And I think that's why it's my favorite one to perform, because it is so necessary too. It is so necessary to help people out of those constructs of their programming and their conditioning, and they don't even know they're carrying it.
Mhm.
What is yours?
What is Oh no, we're still on you.
Ah.
I got questions. I do. So you mentioned the wise and loving, which some people may not know what that is. Could you go
Mhm.
into like what exactly is the wise and loving?
So the wise and loving is basically, it's our higher self. For me, my wise and loving, I didn't meet it until Matthew McConaughey mentioned it. That's that person that's you in 5 years. It's that person that's
Oh.
you in 25 years. It's that person that's looking in on you, that is your soul, that, on whatever realm, that person who wants the very best for you is always going to be you. But the one that's wise, the one that really has your best interest in heart, not your ego. No, no,
Mhm.
no. We're not talking about the ego. The wise and loving, the one that's like, no, this is not what you need to be doing anymore for love. Um, for me, the wise and loving is just my higher self. And if it's not somebody that, you know, because at first, when I first encountered the wise and loving, I thought it was maybe an elder, an ancestor. I never thought about it as your own soul. You're uniquely, essentially, just the you that has your best interest, is like the best way that I can say you're wise and loving, the you that knows better.
When you turn to your wise and loving, do you actually visualize a version of you? Is it symbolically something else? Or if you visualize at all, because not everyone can visualize, and that's okay.
Yeah. Um, I am so like, when I get to the parts where I think about my wise and loving, and I try and I overdo it. Like, I'll catch a glimpse of her real quick, and then the shadow comes over it, because like I try to see what she's looking like, I try to see what she's wearing, and then I try to like imagine it, and then like it gets overwhelming. So I just picture her as light.
Mm.
and then I ask her, what am I going to look like? What am I going to sound and feel like? What is this picture of me? Like, how do you think I should look? What should I move towards? And then I get these like flashes in my head, and sometimes it's funny because actually have a hair stuck on my lip gloss. Um, I remember there was a time when my wise and loving kind of scolded me because, I was doing that whole what am I supposed to look like? What am I supposed to sound like? And, my ego flashed up. My ego is bougie at AF, and she, and she's rolling in her Mercedes, and then my wise and loving is like, "You're not me," like you're the ego, which is great. So come on in. What would you like to look at? But the important is how much have you healed? For me, the wise and loving, she keeps me in check. What's the work you're doing? Are you being true to yourself? So it's not even necessarily just a look of an image, but my wise and loving ego, her cousin, she knows exactly she knows exactly what she wants to look like. Um but it's more of a like, what do you want your habits to look like? What do you want your day to
Mm.
day look like? You know, when are you going to organize that closet? you know like it's more of a, my wise and loving shows me who I want to be, but at my best,
Mhm.
at my very best for me. And when she still kind of has arguments with me about certain negative habits, but it's just one of those things. It's literally for me, just me, but more grown up,
Mhm.
but more grown up emotionally, more grown up like fiscally, more grown up in all the sense of the word of who I want to be in 5 years too. So
So you have this vision of, basically your goal self, and then you take the steps towards it, which is what we do with our clients a lot, right? So like
yep.
something I ask a lot is like when I have a consultation with someone, it's like, okay, you have these issues, you have these things. If you had a magic wand and we waved it instantly, what do you want? Like, what is it that you could have, right? And
Yeah.
that helps them focus like, oh, if I had a magic, if boop, like this, okay, these are everything I want. Okay, that's what we're going to work for. Right. And so your wise and loving is this is who you are, this is where you want to be, and you're working there.
Mhm.
But what's nice is that she guides you, she gives you advice,
Yeah.
she calls you out, saying, like, hey, you want to get to be me? Come on, we got.
Yes. Yes. And it's definitely like I said, it's a big time, um not getting the wise and loving with the ego confused sometimes too, because the ego has a tendency also to appear as though they are helping you to get to these goals that you want to
Mhm.
accomplish too, and then because then you start beating yourself up if you're not there yet, if you haven't started.
Mhm.
And so it's a real fine line between what you're hearing, what you're feeling, and what you're doing. And I've always thought, for me, if it's positive, I have to look and see what parameters I'm using for the word positive.
Ooh,
Because positive to who?
right.
you know?
To redefine,
So,
re-question yourself, like dig
yeah.
a little deeper.
Yeah. So it's like, why do you think this is positive?
Mhm.
What about it is positive to you? What about it is, you know, what is the word I'm looking for? What about it is positive, and what about it is pleasing yourself or indulging yourself too much?
That can
You
be
know?
a fine line depending on what it is.
Mhm.
It's very easy. Well, I guess also because I think of ego as the past or the future, right? Like the ego's always trying to take you and mull over the past over and over again. And also the future of like, oh, but we need this and this is gonna happen. I'm gonna predict this and instead of being in the present moment, which is where happiness is, right? So I guess
Yeah.
if I was to think about that, the parameters then would be, what am I doing for myself now
Yeah.
for happiness?
So I think I will definitely keep that in mind because I never thought about that. I don't always have the sense to question and say, is this a present moment thing? So I did notice the other day, and I was so proud of me, is that I'm literally stopping myself in mid negative thought.
Oh, good.
So I
Catching it.
yes. It's like,
Yes.
well, no, no. And I'm sorry, my cat's walking around. So it's nice to be able to say, no, we're not going to believe that, and just light that, blow the match out before it hits the wick.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
should say. So
Yeah.
that's
Now,
good.
I do want to clarify for anyone who is listening what I mean about being in the present moment. I'm not saying you shouldn't make goals. I think you should make goals for the future.
Yes.
The thing is, ego makes you worry about the future. It makes you worry about things that you cannot control in the future. Um, so yeah, I just thought about that. I was like, no, wait, people still make goals.
Definitely have goals. Definitely have goals. But I think as far as I know what you're talking about. It's not so much the future planning part, but it's the future worry about the future outcome
Hmm.
worry. What if it doesn't go like this? And what if it doesn't go like
Yes.
that? It's not, it's saying, okay, this is the outcome I'd like. This is how we're going to get there.
Hmm.
That's now planning, because everything you do right now is going to have an effect on you later. So,
Yeah.
and that's one of those things too. Jasmine and I do an awful lot with really being in that present moment and in that feeling. And the more you visualize what that desired outcome is, you get that you get to where you can kind of chunk down from there, and you look and see directly how to get those things done. So I like chasing those goals. But as far as my favorite hypnosis to perform is, I really love just doing that wise and loving encounter. You know, I find that so endearing, because I feel like a person has found their very best friend for the first time that they've had their whole life next to them.
Yeah. I love
So
that.
thank
I
you.
love that. I would like to experience that with you.
Oh, okay. We'll
Yeah, that'd
definitely
be
have to
fun.
try
Wise
it.
loving. Oh. All right, guys. Well, this is the end of today's episode. Join us next time where basically I answer the same question. But different answer.
Yes.
So thank you guys for joining us here today, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.